Bond, any thug can kill. I have to know I can trust you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
James Bond is the film par excellence to transmit messages by the enemy within, and it's so in our faces that it's not even subliminal anymore, but right in the open, as if they're getting so bold and feeling invincible, their great moment to come being imminent. The title Spectre, amongst others, is an abbreviation of a secret organization in the Alps standing for Special Executive for Counter-Intelligence, Terrorism, Revenge and Extortion, which is, of course, Octagon of the Swiss Nazi Templars. And the author, Ian Fleming, lived in Switzerland. He's from the Saint Croix Templars family.
Helicopters, we've been attacked!
Get our positions covered! Lift to the girl!
John Dee was the first James Bond.
In the 120 years from 1500 to the beginning of the 30 Years' War, Europe was caught in a number of conspiracies and political intrigues directed toward moving Europe toward a magical and alchemically based society. The Protestant princes of the Northern League of Germany, especially Frederick the Elector Palatine, came to culminate this movement, but its roots lie further back in the 1580s of the 16th century. It was in this period that the English astrologer, astronomer, mathematician, navigator, and expert of espionage, John Dee, launched his famous and mysterious mission to Bohemia, a little-known incident in European history which holds clues to understanding the fate and evolution of modern science and the nature of a lost world of magical and alchemical thinking that once claimed the attention of the European imagination. John Dee, the greatest mind of the Elizabethan era, friend of Queen Elizabeth, colleague of Sir Philip Sidney, converser with angels, mathematician par excellence, determined, under the influence of the mysterious Edward Kelly, that he was to be the center of an alchemical renaissance and a secret society that would lay the groundwork for the continuation of the dream of Astrea, the dream built around the Elizabethan Queen Elizabeth I. He associated himself intensely with the Arthurian mythical and mystical side of the Elizabethan idea of British Empire. He was a Welshman, like the Queen he was so intensely devoted to, and like her he shared the Renaissance mood of Saturnian melancholy, a collector of books, a builder of scientific instruments, a composer of codes and ciphers, fascinated with alchemy. D was both the figure of the introspective melancholic and the world-planning, empire-building political visionary.
One of the reasons he came up with the idea of 007 is, of course, you've heard the story of John Dee signing the letters, the important information to Queen Elizabeth I, 007. And for centuries, I guess people have assumed that that's the 00 and a 7. But back in the day, nobility and royalty, especially Queen Elizabeth I, they used to wear lorgnettes. And those are eyeglasses with a handle, which is 00, and then the handle meaning 7. And what that was stating was when John Dee would sign that on the paperwork that was sent in the communications, it was for her eyes only, for the Queen, for her eyes only. And even James Bond movie, there's a James Bond movie for your eyes only. So that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily a 7. It was 00 and then the lorgnette.
Hey guys, what's up? So today I wanted to show you another one of my eBay acquisitions. And I saw these and I fell in love with them. So these are antique spectacles or folding lorgnette glasses. And these are like almost like opera glasses in a way. And a lady would have wore them around her neck with this chain here. And not only were these functional, these were actually a work of art. So it was a piece of jewelry as well. And a lady would walk around, hold these up to her eyes with this little handle here. I don't know if you can see that. And it's quite ornate and beautiful. And she would actually be able to read with these or go to the opera and spy on people. Yes, people used these type of glasses just to see what other people were doing.
From Facebook, you've got, it looks like 2 balls and a cane, Tubal Cain, which comes from that. The Facebook, which we all know, they're spying on us. They use Facebook. We freely give information to Facebook when we open it up. That's why they call it a profile. It's a profile on you, and you share what you eat, everything. There's no telling what people share on Facebook. I just share information. I don't share my personal information on there. But anyway, Facebook used as spying, which also James Bond, spying, the connection. James Bond is a spy for the Queen of Great Britain. It's all connected, all symbolism mixed with reality that is going on now. So you see the connections there also in Freemasonry. The first reference to Tubal Cain in Freemasonry is found in the Legend of the Craft, where he's called the founder of Smithcraft. Tubal Cain was a master of forging weapons, in which 33rd degree Freemasonry and Master Rosicrucian. Manly P. Hall. This is what he says. This is about him and his weapons. The Mason must follow in the footsteps of his forefather Tubal Cain, who, with the mighty strength of a war god, hammer his sword into a plowshare.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Tubal Cain is the password given in the 3rd degree of Blue Lodge of Master Mason. So, I mean, it's all through Masonry. We know NASA is covered with Freemasons. We shouldn't believe anything they're telling you.
Oh man, that's the best idea since they faked the moon landing.
Okay, cut.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
When Alan Dulles brought in all the Nazi scientists and so forth, they went to two places. They went to CIA. And
I had some family that did stuff for the CIA. Because my dad, he was someone who would do medical procedures on high-level CIA people.
Whenever I go to a family reunion, half the people in the room are former retired CIA. I've had family that got like 7 Silver Stars and stuff like that, but it's all classified.
I'll tell the government right now, tell you right now if you're listening, NSA, CIA, I'm available, okay? If you show me all the real wreckage, I swear to God, I will make fun of that crap to the end of time. I'll make up stories. I'll lie to my mother. I don't care. You show me a UFO, I'll lie to my mother.
They went to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which in our world we call it not a space agency. Which in our world we call it not a space agency. And as Kathy O'Brien has said so clearly, that's where the bulk of the mind control has.
Is this really what you want? Always alone?
We used to be able to get into a room with the enemy. And now they're just floating in the ether.
When her secret finds its way out, it'll be the death of you.
Oh my God.
Target enough people.
And the people become the weapon.
Who is he?
James, you don't know what this is.
James Bond, licensed to kill, in love with Madeline Swan. I could be speaking to my own reflection. Only your skills die with your body. And life is all about leaving something behind, isn't it?
Because it's all illusion, leading you astray to believe in aliens, whatever you want to say. That's a whole nother video. In the Bible, this is, Tubal Cain is described in the Bible under Isaiah 2:4. He will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. And also in Joel 3:10. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weakly say, I am strong. For these reasons, Tubal Cain has been consecrated among Masons of the present day as an ancient brother. His introduction of the arts of civilization having given the first value to property. Tubal Cain has been considered among Masons as a symbol of worldly possessions. Let me repeat that. Tubal Cain has been considered among Masons as a symbol of worldly possessions. So what that is telling you right there, for all you Masons out there that claim you're Christians, here's what Christ says about worldly possessions. Matthew 6:19-21. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through or nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So there you have it. Freemasonry disguised as some kind of Christianity. And they're really a brotherhood that secretly communicate amongst themselves to protect the brotherhood, per se.
Me and Joe were talking about the legal system. See, I'm suing the guy that ripped me off for this stuff.
Joe, do you have any experience in a court of law?
1987, Joe Gorelli is arrested on a drunken disorderly. Case dismissed. 1989, again, drunk and disorderly. Case dismissed. Besides, Jimmy's case is in the bag, because we know something that the other side doesn't. That all federal, state, and local judges are members of a certain obscure sect of the Freemasons.
Now, hold on. Our strategy is that all judges are Masons?
Well, there's more to it than that.
Like what?
Well, there's a secret Masonic word which, when uttered, obligates judges to rule in your favor.
Wait a minute. You're basing my whole case on some silly secret word?
Mr. James.
Come on, Joe, give it up.
Tubal Cain.
Tubal Cain?
Sorry.
Those were some clips from a TV show back in the 90s called News Radio. And yes, I agree that if you go to court and you mention Tubal Cain that you're going to get off. No, I do not. But what it is showing you, and kind of mocking us that we don't know this, but there is an unwritten language that is going on between the Brotherhood that has been passed down for centuries and centuries.
This is Inside the Music. I'm Brian Lawrenson. The Magic Flute is not only an opera that tells the story of love and trials, there's also a deeper meaning. Mozart intended the work to be a dramatic representation of a person's initiation into Freemasonry. And to learn more about it, I went to the Masonic Center in Santa Monica and spoke with former Grand Master of Masons in California, Stephen Doan.
This is known as Mozart's Masonic opera, written in the last year of his life, and he did something that he knew his Masonic brothers would attend, and that non-Masons would come out of curiosity for what the Masons were about. And he thinly disguised a Masonic initiation ceremony in this opera. So as part of the Masonic initiation ceremony at the time, the candidate goes through these 4 elemental tests: earth, water, air, fire.
Earth, air, fire, water, water, air, 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 water, earth, air, fire, water, earth, air, fire. It is better that you should rush upon this blade than enter the circle with fear in your heart. How do you enter? With perfect love and perfect trust.
To prove to the brethren that they have the right balance of these 4. And of course we see these in the second act of the opera. Tamino's going through the initiatic process, and the first 2 are earth and air, and then he does fire and water subsequently.
So this opera is called The Magic Flute. I imagine there's quite a bit to unpack there.
Freemasonry is all about harmony. That's why geometry is the central symbol of Freemasonry, because geometry measures the harmony in the universe. There's a principle in theology, it's called hypostasis. We can never know the divine, we can only see the work of the divine. And because geometry measures the harmony in the universe, geometry therefore becomes the symbol of the creator of that harmony. That's the whole point of Freemasonry. That's really the whole point of this opera. And the magic flute convey this sense of harmony. The flute is magical because the 4 elements are in balance. It's made from wood from the earth. It was made on a rainy night when there was water, and also thunder and lightning, which is fire. But then, most importantly, it takes someone to apply the breath, somebody who has the wisdom to play the music on the flute that will return harmony.
I want to see a Swiss system. I mean, I wouldn't mind being conquered by Switzerland right now.
This is octagon everywhere. There's a G, the Templars G, hidden in it. The Swiss Templars cross, the all-seeing eye, octagon. This is the Swiss cross again. This is Alex Jones's stuff with a V of the Templars. It's all hidden in here. And here too, the Templars cross and the Swiss cross in the middle of it. And I'm very sure you'll find more things in it as well, It's all hidden. Symbols don't lie. And this guy here who's supposed to know all these things, he's telling us about it. I mean, why is he using it? Eh? It even says, this is quite cynical, open up your eyes. So cynical. And octa means 8 in Greek, as most squids have 8 tentacles, just as the US enroll total control all-seeing eye in the sky. So here's Spectre on Wikipedia. It says it was founded here in 1950. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well 8 of course. You can also see the alien connection here. As in Ari, aristocracy, born out of the sun from beyond here. And it appeared in Ian Fleming's, here it says Fleming, in his first novel Thunderball, and then in the second film here, Dr. No. And therefore they had the Swiss lady play in it, Ursula Andress from Bern, the canton of the bear, just like in John's Revelations. So it's very, very much related to Switzerland, and it is octagon. And the word spectre is from the Latin spessere, meaning to look at, as in spectacles, a spectacle, or a spectator. And it also means a visible, incorporeal spirit, especially one of terrifying nature, a ghost, apparition or phantom. It also means some object of terror or dread, a mental image of something unpleasant or menacing, any incorporeal, supernatural being that can become visible or audible to human beings. So, and the octopus thing, it even looks a bit like a ghost, you know. Then, with that title indicating the arrival of some entity, they show this teleportation vortex wormhole for the arrival of souls. And most people think it's the inside barrel of a gun and the blood coming down because a bullet from this barrel just killed somebody. Or is it rather the blood and genetics of a needed of a human being to materialize this arrival from, it's always coming from up there, the blood? Well, it's all indicating this here, you know. And then that lady in the latest Spectre trailer talking about its Skyfall through that vortex and saying, "You've got a secret. Something you can't tell anyone, because you don't trust anyone." Well, definitely by the Swiss laws of silence and Mason's Omerta, by the Sisters of Isis. And who's falling anyway? Who's having a skyfall here, hey? Well, look at that picture there in the thing, wormhole vortex. It is not a barrel of a gun, but it brings death, yes. And that vortex wormhole fits with the Templars' Baphomet, meaning Ba, the soul when dead, Paha, to arrive, and Me for pyramid. The immortal souls arrive in the pyramid, Bapha Me. Then, in that new Spectre trailer, showing an alpine scenery on a lake with snow-topped alpine Swiss mountains, a mysterious voice says, "I always knew death would wear a familiar face," while we hear a pounding heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Death, a familiar face, it says? Like a world-known politician we all know or something? Now watch this video to understand more of it, because Bond stands for the Alliance and also for Boas, the obelisk, as in Jabbo, J-A for James and B-O for Bond. Also J-A for Jason, B-O for Bourne, Jason Bourne, Jabbo, the two Mason obelisks Yashin and Boaz, and therefore the voice addressing first Bond and later James for each equivalent obelisk, and saying, "You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond." Well, this is definitely referring to the Mason Ordo Ab Chaos, with that hurricane, while within the bond of the order, it seems nothing more than just dancing and playing with us. Also saying the arrival takes place in the middle of times of turmoil, like a kite dancing in a hurricane. And all this is being said in a 2-minute trailer of Mr. Freemason Bond of Switzerland.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
I speak for the majority of the Senate and the House of Representatives, assured that President Hammond has been a traitor to his party, false to the principles on which he was elected. I propose to demand from the House the impeachment, the immediate removal of the President of the United States. The President of the United States.
May the rules be suspended? I would like to dispense with all red tape so I can answer questions directly while I have the floor.
Unless there is objection, the rules of this Congress will be suspended.
Gentlemen, I am here as a representative of the American people in their hour of darkest despair. A plant cannot be made to grow by watering the top alone and letting the roots go dry. The people of this country are the roots of the nation, and the sturdy trunk and the branches too. You have spent $4 billion only to aggravate adversity. I ask for $4 billion to restore buying power.
Democrats believe the $3.5 trillion would provide enough money to cover all of the president's priorities. It would address climate change. A source tells me that includes tax incentives for clean energy and vehicles and to create a civilian climate corps. It also has funding for universal pre-K and paid family leave. It adds dental, vision, and hearing benefits to Medicare and extends the child tax credit.
This is only the first step in a long road we will have to travel and must travel. But we are going to get this done because we so fervently believe that we must make average American lives a whole lot better.
Stimulate purchases. Restore prosperity. You have wasted precious days and weeks and years in futile discussion. We need action, immediate and effective action.
Mr. President, there is a movement in Congress for your impeachment. Hardly time for making any requests, however small.
Very well. I shall withdraw that request, but I would like to substitute another. I ask you, gentlemen, to declare a state of national emergency and to adjourn this Congress until normal conditions are restored. During the period of that adjournment, I shall assume full responsibility for the government.
Mr. President, this is dictatorship.
Senator Langham, words do not frighten me.
But the United States of America is a democracy. We are not yet ready to give up the government of our fathers.
Order, please, order! You have given it up. You've turned your backs. You've closed your ears to the appeals of the people. You've been traitors to the concepts of democracy upon which this government was founded. I believe in democracy as Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln believed in democracy. And if what I plan to do in the name of the people makes me a dictator, then it is a dictatorship based on Jefferson's definition of democracy, a government for the greatest good of the greatest number.
This Congress refuses to adjourn.
I think, gentlemen, you forget that I am still the President of these United States. And as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, it is within the rights of the President to declare the country under martial law.
Martial law is in effect for the safety of all citizens. Groups of more than 3 men shall not congregate in public spaces. A curfew is in effect. Any person found on the street after dark will be subject to summary judgment. Long live General Gaius Julius Caesar. Savior.
And Attorney General Eric Holder will go to Ferguson tomorrow to meet with investigators and community leaders. President Obama made that announcement Monday after a series of talks. Major Garrett is at the White House where the president is holding more meetings today. Major, good morning.
Good morning. President Obama is sending Attorney General Eric Holder to Ferguson, Missouri with a message for everyone involved. Don't prejudge the case and don't use selective leaks to manipulate or inflame perceptions of the facts. The president vowed to keep an open mind, and he urged everyone in Ferguson, Missouri to spend more time listening.
Let me call once again for us to seek some understanding rather than simply holler at each other. Let's seek to heal rather than to wound each other.
Some in Ferguson have for days ignored the president's pleas, prompting this defense of law and order.
While I understand the passions and the anger that arise over the death of Michael Brown, giving into that anger by looting or carrying guns and even attacking the police only serves to raise tensions and stir chaos. It undermines rather than advancing justice.
Of our republic.
First and highest duty as president is to defend our great country and the American people. I swore an oath to uphold the laws of our nation, and that is exactly what I will do.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
These are acts of domestic terror.
There were times overnight when Washington was in chaos.
Chaos on the streets. We've seen looting. We've seen extreme violence this morning.
Our nation has been gripped by professional anarchists.
Chaos here in downtown Minneapolis.
Violent mobs, arsonists, looters, criminals, rioters, Antifa.
This will descend into riots, chaos.
There's no order right now in the streets.
A number of state and local governments have failed to take necessary action to safeguard their residents.
And this will spread across America, there is no doubt. This chaos will be a contagion.
For now, it's hard to see how order can return.
Vowing that the chaos will continue.
These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists.
These are acts of domestic terror.
America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world.
To stop the violence and restore security and safety in America.
I was thinking about what it meant for America to be under attack. It was an amazing thought. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve, and no one will keep that light from shining.
A beam of light shining at One World Trade Center. No, not the annual tribute in light. This.
A new world order can emerge, a new era.
I am your president of law and order.
I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice.
I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
Freer from the threat of terror.
I want the organizers of this terror,
Our war on terror,
to be on notice that you will face severe criminal penalties and lengthy sentences in jail.
Stronger in the pursuit of justice and more secure in the quest for peace.
One law and order.
A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle.
And that is what it is. One law. We have one beautiful law.
An order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
America is founded upon the rule of law.
Peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
It is the foundation of our prosperity, our freedom, and our very way of life.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
I take these actions today with firm resolve and with a true and passionate love for our country. By far, our greatest days lie ahead.
This Constitution is nothing but a license for oil companies and foreign interests to destroy my beloved Wadiya. Wadiya will remain a dictatorship. Woo! Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests. I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Jupiter Optimus Maximus. Jupiter Optimus Maximus. Jupiter Optimus Maximus.
Where John D. left off and his discoveries, things that he was working on, that it has been passed on. It's still continuing today under other names, alchemy and those things like that. They were mixing magic, science, and religion all together. It was just a melting pot. I also find it very interesting that a very famous Arthur C. Clarke, a science fiction writer, has a great quote. It says, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And when you start researching and connecting the dots of what's going on with NASA, technology, the magic and of the Illuminati and music behind the Illuminati, the frequencies and tones, they are the builders, and nothing has changed. All it is has been repackaged under new names for our day and time. The next clip I'm going to play, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but this is a great clip on John D. and when, they picked up where he left off, and that is what CERN and D-Wave, part of the compartmentalization that is going on to communicate back and forth from one realm to the next. And once that doorway is opened all the way, you cannot shut it. You're going to let something into this realm that is not supposed to be in this realm. And it was put here by the Creator for a reason, for protection. Firmament over the earth, call it whatever you want. Please enjoy this clip. I'll be right back after this.
The discovery of the Hermeticum during the Renaissance created a new generation of occultists. They sought to combine religion with science and magic, a dangerous undertaking in a society ruled by Christianity. John Dee would risk his life to study its teachings.
John Dee was a giant. John Dee was the embodiment of the ideal of an enlightened being who had the spiritual understanding of his role and mission in life, and who was gifted with, superior intelligence.
But like Pythagoras, he would pay a heavy price for daring to seek out the wisdom of the gods. The ultimate Renaissance man, Dee followed in the footsteps of Paracelsus, using experimentation to become a gifted scientist, an inventor, a mathematician, a brilliant cryptographer, and a pioneer in the field of navigation.
But he was also an occultist, he was a sorcerer, he was an astrologer, he was in fact Queen Elizabeth's personal court astrologer. And in that sense, his interests were all very much in keeping with the thinking of the time. There wasn't a distinction made between magic and science, and he was pursuing an understanding of the world around him.
When Queen Elizabeth rose to the throne of England in 1558, she installed Dee as court astrologer, but his influence reached far beyond his position. England's famous magician was also a spy for the Queen.
He was involved with political intrigue. He was a trusted ally of the Queen, but he was also working behind the scenes throughout Europe to help to lower the power of the church and to substitute Protestant power in its stead.
With Dee's guidance, Queen Elizabeth officially legitimized the most significant occult science of the Renaissance, alchemy. Alchemists had two goals: to heal illness and to turn base metal into gold. They believed success could be achieved by finding the Philosopher's Stone, a mystical agent that would also produce a higher level of consciousness in the alchemist.
That was really an approach to trying to understand the way the physical world works, and alchemy as a practice, was the forefather of modern chemistry.
Alchemy had existed since the early Egyptians, but in the hands of the Renaissance scientists, it reached new heights.
Everything that we know and do today in our modern science was developed by the alchemists. Laboratory techniques were part of the alchemical tradition. The observation of results, the scientific method is a child of alchemy.
Alchemists were on the leading edge of science. They discovered phosphorus, zinc, the distillation of alcohol, the germ nature of diseases. They were the first to understand how blood circulates in the body. The church viewed their unorthodox experiments and scientific breakthroughs with growing suspicion.
We are speeding up what nature does. We're speeding up the rate at which the metals evolve. We're speeding up the rate at which medicines are combined and raise consciousness. And the church felt that you can't be speeding up God's creation without recourse to demons.
Despite his work in alchemy, Dee's true occult passion lay in divination. He believed that he could apply scientific methods to communicate with supernatural beings. Dee's obsession with contacting the angels would have disastrous consequences. This art of manipulating objects like bones, tea leaves, and tarot cards had arrived from the Muslim East in the 14th century and become a popular method of fortune-telling. But Dee used a divination method known as scrying. Dee relied on looking into a crystal ball that would reflect back supernatural information.
There is a revolution coming.
Excuse me? What do you mean?
The future is staring back at us like a perfect picture on glass. And this future, it must be protected.
What's it got to do with me?
Look.
What is it?
It will change everything. That's why they want to stop it. They will come after you without cease. Because the future belongs to us. LG, OLED, perfect picture on glass.
Who are you?
Oh, come now. I've already told you. The future is staring back at you. LG OLED TV.
Scrying is a long time old technique, scrying into glasses, mirrors, bodies of water, anything that would have a reflective surface, and see if you could see not just the material things, but the spiritual things standing behind.
These efforts were unsuccessful until one day a young man named Edward Kelly appeared at his door. Kelly seemed to have the talent to see into the shadow world.
Their system involved Edward Kelly looking into a amethyst crystal and describing what he saw, and John Dee would then record these communications.
Kelly began receiving messages from the angels. They spoke in a language he called Enochian, from the lost biblical book of Enoch. These transmissions are early examples of what New Age followers now call channeling.
What Dee and Kelly brought forth was completely new. It was not based on tradition.
He appeared to be speaking a new language.
The Enochian language does appear to have a coherent vocabulary and syntax, and this doesn't seem like the sort of thing that Kelly, who was not a particularly educated or schooled person, could have just invented. He couldn't have faked something like that.
John Dee and Kelly embarked on a tour of Europe to share their discoveries, just as the Inquisition launched another crackdown against heretics.
All you needed was a slight change in political or religious circumstance, and something that was considered exceptionally wonderful would then be considered demonic and scary.
Dee returned home to England to find that a mob had destroyed his irreplaceable library and scientific and occult instruments. Dee had fallen out of favor with the court. The man who began as a leading scientist of the Renaissance ended his life penniless, branded as a sorcerer.
Dee's main legacy was not to science, it is to magic. And it's because of those who have come after, who have seized upon what he created.
Connect the dots for our audience. What do all three have in common?
Well, first of all, let's start off, Alexis, specifically with Tesla and Donald Trump. And go back to the 1940s. The inventor Nikola Tesla died in 1943. The FBI was called in to vet his inventions to make sure there was nothing dangerous there that could fall into enemy hands. And they called an MIT electrical engineering professor, a very esteemed one named John Trump. Now, it turns out that John Trump is, in fact, the uncle of the President of the United States. So an interesting thing there, and by the way, he found out that Tesla's inventions, which included a purported death ray, were not necessarily dangerous to society. But then if you flash forward to today, you've got Tesla, the automaker, named after this inventor, Nikola Tesla. And in a way, Elon Musk is the intellectual descendant of Nikola Tesla, a futurist, a polymath, and someone with a million inventions in his mind, who sometimes emulates the president, Alexis, with Twitter, but sometimes spars with him about, say, emission standards and Chinese tariffs. So very interesting connection there. And there's more, of course, too.
Andy, so I was reading your story over the weekend, and I left with the sense, you know what? Tesla's the real deal. Nikola, not proven that it can bring hydrogen to market, but Tesla, 2 years ago, who would have thought we would be in this position right now that Tesla would have this type of market cap that would be pushing out cars that like it is?
Yeah, over $300 billion in market cap, more than GM, Ford, and Toyota combined.
And made it into a new worldview, whether it's consciousness arts or ceremonial magic or divination, could take place inside these new parameters that they set up.
And a warning from Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with cars. Instead, Musk warns about artificial intelligence, which he has called more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Didn't work out.
I take it there will be no HAL 9000 going up to Mars.
HAL 9000 would be easy. It's way more complex than, I mean, it would put Hell 9000 to shame.
John Dee's fall was the beginning of the occult's end. The practices were reviled by the church as the work of demonic possession. From the 14th through the 16th century, more than 40,000 people would be executed for witchcraft. Occult ideas became embedded in the traditions of secret societies, such as the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians.
They were tending to do them passed on among secret brotherhoods and organizations because these are very powerful and dangerous ideas, dangerous to status quo, dangerous to institutionalized religion. So there's an element of underground secrecy associated with some of these themes.
These havens of safety began to flourish across Europe. Secret societies were instrumental in the new age of enlightenment that swept through Europe in the 1700s and even helped in the founding of American democracy.
So there you have it, the brotherhood. And that's part of the problem, and is most on the face of the earth do not believe in a brotherhood. If you do believe in the brotherhood, you're a conspiracy nut, wacko, whatever you want to say. But this still does exist. It goes by different names. Call it what you want. They're all Luciferian. It could be Bilderbergers, Illuminati, you know, Rosicrucianists back in the day, Freemasonry now at the top levels. So that's one of the problems. But also, you know, they mock us in movies, videos, in the news, Olympics. I mean, it's all over the place. That they're showing you who they are. You just have to learn their language. You know, centuries ago and throughout history, the octopus, Rothschild's octopus, the English throne, that was a symbol. The octopus was a symbol of having tentacles, so to speak, into everything, into money, trade, education, technology, whatever that was, science. The octopus has been a long, long time symbol of that, outreaching. There's plenty of good videos out there that talk of the symbolism of the octopus. I have one of those on my website as well. But, I mean, even just to show you how they mock us and put it in our face, you know, you've got the 2015 London Olympics. Right there, the octopus, the tentacles going out, and, you know, and someone, I don't know if anybody's touched on this, but notice that it's newspaper. The stage is newspaper. NEWS. That's code also for all over the world. The news, yes, but north, east, west, south news. It's also on the Masonic tracing board as well, which, you know, that's a whole nother video.
Bond hits an all-time high. Roger Moore is Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Octopussy. Roger Moore in his newest and most thrilling of the James Bond adventures, filling the screen with excitement. In the tradition of the great James Bond films, Octopussy has everything: elegant palaces and beautiful women.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Name's Bond. I believe you have a reservation for me. We've been expecting you, sir.
I'm Octopussy.
The outstretched tentacles of the Brotherhood, the kingdoms of this world that have been given to Satan, and that's another problem, is Jesus was took up on a high mountain. Satan took him there, asked him to bow down, and if you worship me, I will give you the kingdoms of this world. And there still are for an age, and people have a big time problem with that. Sorry, you know, that's the plan for an age. Even in the James Bond intros and movies, they mock Christ. They're showing you he actually plays the Christ figure that they mock and copy.
So what's yours?
Resurrection.
Everybody needs a hobby. So what's yours?
Resurrection.
Can you get into a better position? Negative, there's no time. Take the shot. I say take the shot. I can't, I may hit Bond. Take the bloody shot.
Just relax. That's it, lovely. Now, you may feel a small prick.
What is it?
Cutting-edge nanotechnology. Smart blood. Microchips in your bloodstream allows us to track your movements in the field.
My Bible says that when Jesus Christ comes, he, not his church, he, the King of Glory, he will set up a kingdom.
The Knights Templars are at the heart of this conspiracy to rule the world, otherwise known today as the New World Order. Jesuits really are the revived Knights Templars.
These counterfeit crusades that they hold. So beware of these dangerous doctrines of demons that are coming into the church.
It's prophetic that God's using you to break things open. In Jesus' name,
Jeesuksen nimessä
we declare the spirit of religion
me julistamme, että uskonnollisuuden
that blocks the glory, the head be cut off.
että sen pää leikataan nyt poikki.
Decapitate.
That he who occupies the top of those mountains can literally shape the agenda that forms nations.
This crusade, this war on terrorism.
The Knights Templars. In Jerusalem, the Templars began to deviate further and further away from the practices of Christianity. They learnt the secret arts of the Kabbalah, an ancient form of Jewish magic, along with its dark rites and rituals. In 1717, the Templars made their reappearance in Europe. They had grown in both number and strength, and were now ready to coin a new identity, free from their reputation of the past, and given credibility by none other than the monarchy and aristocracy of England. And the name they chose for themselves was a name that would be known by many, but understood by a few. This new name, the Freemasons.
Now, at its very core, this issue seems to tie right into the Knights Templar. And I know that sounds very strange from the get-go, but honestly, this deception that's coming into the church is actually tied to the Jesuit Knights Templar, the government of the Order of the Temple of Solomon. I mean, not only are we in the time where everyone's saying, you know, is there going to be a third temple? And then in 2013, it comes to light here that the Knights Templar are back, you know, not that they ever went away, but they've come back into the public light. The Sovereign Magistral Order of the Temple of Solomon. 2013 AD. It's fully restored as an independent sovereign subject of international law in 2013, embodying the authentic Templar heritage. And we literally have a whole website here which is dedicated to all of these official documents, legal documents, mind you, and the missions. This is what I want to show you, this Templar spirituality. And this is how this links with this deception that we're seeing, the worship of the goddess, the reverence of the divine feminine, Gaia. The temple rule proves that the Knights Templar were always dedicated to honouring the divine feminine principle as the spiritual feminine aspect of God. So you can see how this ties to the Roman Catholic Church, to the Jesuits, to Allah, the moon goddess, and to all of these false religions, but also this pagan New Age, which is actually the Old Age Babylon agenda, and the throwing out of this masculine. We see all these attacks on God and the Old Testament and the truth of God, and turning into this airy-fairy, emotional, experiential deal without boundaries, without restrictions, without commands. And all of this stuff is tying into, when you come to its very core, the conspiracy at its very heart of the New World Order, the Antichrist, the paganism, the Babylon agenda, New World Order, is actually rooted in the Knights Templar, who never went away, but now in 2013 have officially come out into the public and declared themselves sovereign, a sovereign entity without territory, but sovereign nonetheless. So it's all about Gnosticism and Christian mysticism, the divine feminine. The uniquely ancient and diverse heritage of Templar spirituality was fully disclosed to the Vatican and officially endorsed by the Roman Catholic Church. Authentic Templar spirituality is a form of esoteric Gnosticism which is wholly compatible with the canonical Christian mysticism of classical Catholicism. Gnostic spirituality primarily concentrates on personal divine communion through the Holy Spirit. Here we go, look, Templar chivalry, look at this. This is the picture of the Pope with all the world leaders of religions, of false religions. Hinduism, Islam, Baha'i. And this is what they are showing. And at the bottom of the page we can see all of these emblems which say a lot. Pontifical protection, recognized by 5 Vatican papal bulls as Templar guardians of the Church. Cooperation with Islam. Look at that, cooperation with Islam as a tool of the Jesuit Knights Templar. Look at this. The Knights of Saladin under Templar sovereign patronage. Diplomatic relations with the United Nations with the crest of Rome. Oh my goodness me. Look at this, United Nations. This is where all of these agendas are coming to. So, and remember with the United Nations that they have those books on New Age spirituality, Alice Bailey and all of these people who were involved in this Gnostic counterfeit spirituality of the Antichrist. And this is very similar. This logo is very similar to what we see on some of the big Christian, so-called Christian broadcasting networks at the very top. But with this fire and water. So we see on a lot of these big organizational level a lot of Illuminati symbolism. And what it is essentially, remember with the Knights Templar, this is dominionism. This is dominion theology about taking over the world. So this explains the influx of false doctrine of Jesuit infiltrators into churches, into the mainstream Christian media, and all with this core belief of the Holy Grail, the divine feminine Gnosticism that they are really pushing onto churches and losing those boundaries. They're advertising it as something like in Hollywood, you know, we need to get out of this box and we need to, you know, forget all the old stuff. We need to free ourselves, liberate ourselves, liberation from the old into this new spirituality, which is a lot more humanistic and it's a lot more divine, and you feel more, you experience more, and that's the cheese on the trap that they're trying to pull people in. I mean, yes, there are certain good things to Reformation, but they are staging a counterfeit Reformation, which is a Knights Templar Gnostic Reformation, and they're pulling people into these horrific scenes which I showed at the beginning of this with Bethel music and all of these people that have counterfeit revivals, counterfeit prophecies, counterfeit signs and wonders. These groups that are actually pushing a Kundalini spirit. These you know, these counterfeit crusades that they hold at the, you know, these top levels, which are coaxing and coercing people into a counterfeit spirit. The false light and the two pillars through the twin towers, and with the building 7, so you get them pillars, you get those pillars coming down, you got the figure in the center of it bringing these down and collapsing building 7, which would be the cornerstone, the cube. Just like we said about the cube fell open behind the veil in Herod's temple. The cube fell open when Jesus was crucified and the veil broke. Well, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Except this time, this is coming from within the womb. This is coming the other way. This is coming out. Everything of Christ is inverted with the Antichrist. So this is what you get. The two towers, the twin towers, the veil, and you'd get this Isis figure on the cube there, see, on the cornerstone, coming through the veil from the other way. And it's about breaking it out of the womb. It's about breaking the fallen out. All of this coming through the veil. Samsung G. Samsung, son of Sam. Samael. Samael. Another name for Satan. Samael, son of Sam. So Samsung, break this word up. Sam, Sun, G. Between those pillars, like Samson. Samson, son of Sam. Samson, G. The G between the two pillars in Freemasonry, within the IXXI, pushing down the two pillars, the son of Sam, pyramid there in the logo for Samsung. And it comes from the womb of Saturn. If you don't believe me, if you think that's absolutely ludicrous, well, just keep looking at the evidence which is all around us. Look at this album cover just for one example. Dizzy Wright, look at this. You see there how round the edges it's got the vinyl. Well, the vinyl round the edges stands for the rings of Saturn. So you can see on this album cover called the Golden Age, which is many will know what that is, the Golden Age of Saturn, the return to Eden. So you've got the rings of Saturn round the outside. You've got this lady, this woman in the centre. It's about Cain's house, you know. Coming through that door, she's pregnant. She's pregnant, so this is coming out of the womb. So there you've got right there, this is coming out the womb, which is in Saturn. You've got the mother there with a pregnant belly. The Golden Age, the whole thing is transfigured to gold. So it's the transfigured ox, the transfigured, the belly of the beast. This is shown time and time again. Time and time again.
Come on, Bond. Where the hell are you? James! Okay.
If we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save.
I have to finish this. You are the flower artist.
Nope.
You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them.
and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Ooh, we can see so